Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna talk about collecting and how to display your collection the best way possible. And I happen to know an expert in the field. So today Discard and I are gonna talk a little bit about how to display your collection, or favorite parts of your collection anyway. Often I just look at my collection and how I'm displaying it and thinking that I could actually display my games a lot better than what I'm already doing. Like for example, I have double stacked games here, so that means what I have behind my PS Vita games is actually my PS3 collection, which doesn't really get to shine the way that I have my setup right now. I wish the shelves weren't as deep, if you know what I mean. Actually, I need to reorganize my shelves behind me. I don't feel like I do my Game Boy collection any justice the way that I have my collection right now. These are picture frame shelves, I think it is. They are 4 of them just put together so that it looks like one long. I found this is a really good way to display my Switch games, as long as I have only this amount of Switch games. It's like always gonna be a work in progress, I feel like. So I wanna ask Discard, what are your top tips and tricks for displaying your video games?
Irene, absolutely. I'm always looking for different ways to display things in game rooms or game collections, or even people with just a few different games that they happen to have lying around. So the first thing that I want to tackle is that shelf behind you, because a lot of people actually have these cube style shelves and they work fantastic for displaying all sorts of different things in your game collection. But the biggest problem, like you said, is that they're just a little bit too deep, they're a little bit too tall sometimes for certain games, and that can all be modified with different things that you can do. One of the more common versions of that shelf is the Kallax from IKEA, and you can get all sorts of add-ons from them now to really modify it and add different risers in there and do all sorts of different things. But generally speaking, you can modify it by just doing a little bit of DIY work at home. The problem that you're trying to solve, and it's the same problem that I'm trying to solve, is just kind of rising up those games inside of that shelf and really utilizing the majority of the space that's there without really compromising on the ability to grab cartridges or the games out of those shelves. So the DIY idea that really worked really well for this, and is probably the best solution to this problem as a whole, is using some foam core board and cutting it up to the proper size and width and height for your shelf. But essentially you just cut up this 1/2 inch foam core board and cut it to size and then hot glue it together, and it's very sturdy. It will hold the majority of different things out there. I don't think it's gonna hold 50 pounds, but it'll hold a bunch of PS4 games, especially Nintendo Switch games, and it looks absolutely awesome. What made this idea fantastic was that you could stack your games on top of it and then also have games in front. You have a little bit of a gap that is underneath the games that are in back, and you can utilize that to store different things like extra cords or different items from your game collection that you don't really want to have out there visually. And of course, if you could cut up real wood and cut it up to the right size just like these, it would of course be the better solution for long term. But what I found is this 1/2 inch foam core board works really well and is super sturdy. Now when it comes to displaying Nintendo Switch games, I absolutely love the Nintendo Switch. It is probably my favorite console ever made, if not in just the top 2 consoles that I've ever played. It's fantastic because I can carry it everywhere, but the thing is, I have so many games for it, it becomes kind of a challenge to display them. So here are some of the top display ideas that I have for Nintendo Switch games in their case or cartridges. One of the first really cool ideas for displaying Nintendo Switch games is this rotating stand, and this comes from Atom 3D Prints on Etsy. And Etsy is a fantastic place to look if you're looking for really original ideas on how to display different things in a game collection, and this was no different. This rotating stand comes in 6, 8, and 10, allowing you to hold a bunch of different games while they're in their cases. And you can just put this anywhere and rotate it and grab whatever game you need to out of there. The design for this is really smart. It comes in a bunch of different pieces that you put together, and it all kind of slides into place, and that's fantastic. It's actually made out of 3D printed PLA, So it's a simple plastic design and it's pretty lightweight. And one thing that I think is very important when it comes to displaying Nintendo Switch games is looking good while doing it. And I think it's very important to know that your Nintendo Switch games are going to know whether or not you're looking good while displaying them. So it's very important to go ahead and take a look down below in the description, and you should be able to find a link for this shirt. One display idea that I really like, probably because it's just too cute to not be talked about, are these little NES Switch cartridge covers. A seller on Etsy called Say Bobby makes these little Switch covers, and they are just super cute, and they can be customized to whatever you need them to be. These are shaped like NES cartridges, and essentially he can take whatever image you have or whatever game you want and then have that put onto the label that he's sticking to the cartridge itself. I've thoroughly enjoyed having these in my own collection. I really like having them on the shelf because they're just a cool talking piece. But one of the cool factors is if I just want to have one cartridge that I bring with me the majority of the time and just be able to swap that out with whatever's in my Switch, this is a great solution to just throwing it in my pocket and being ready to rock. Another idea for your collection of cartridges from your Nintendo Switch is this giant game case. This game case holds a ton of different cartridges in there. It comes from a company called Unikeep. It has a bunch of foam in there, and you simply pop your cartridges into each socket and it will hold those cartridges. This is great because it's like a giant book, so you could put it on a bookshelf and it'll blend in nicely, but it also looks pretty cool. And on to some of my favorite ideas for displaying Nintendo Switch games. And one of my favorite ideas in general for displaying most things in your game collection are these acrylic floating shelves. I recently noticed that Irene actually put up a kind of LED shelf behind her above her shelves in the background, and it looks absolutely awesome. I love when people use these little LED shelves because you can put your game out there and see all of that beautiful artwork and get a ton of different games displayed that way. And one of the kinds of these shelves that I've really loved are these acrylic ones. They're kind of small, they're not too long, and you can put a ton of different things on them, including Game Boy games and all sorts of different cartridge sizes. So they're kind of a Swiss Army knife for displaying anything in your game collection, and especially Nintendo Switch games look really awesome on here. With acrylic, really there's no need to paint it or make it look like your environment that it's in. It's gonna just look really awesome wherever you decide to put it. So I definitely recommend taking a look into these and putting a bunch of Nintendo Switch games on them because it looks really cool. And then it comes down to my all-time favorite idea for displaying Nintendo Switch games, and that comes from TrophyBit. TrophyBit makes these amazing tiered displays that you can put your cartridges into and easily be able to put them in and take them out of. TrophyBit is another company that designs and 3D prints their own designs and just makes some really good work. The big benefit of these being tiered just allows you to see more of that artwork. You can see all of these little tiny Nintendo Switch cartridges, and you can keep them in this and keep your actual cases on the shelf. That way you're not taking your cases out and putting them back in and kind of getting all of those labels and things scratched up over time. Having a little tiered display like this, it has a huge benefit because you can take it and put it wherever your Nintendo Switch is and just be able to grab and go the cart that you need. TrophyBit has a ton of different sizes of these too. I believe they have 2 different sizes of the larger ones that hold different cartridges, as well as they have one that actually goes around your Nintendo Switch dock. And that's the one I absolutely love because it turned my nasty black Nintendo Switch dock that was not very pretty into a beautiful piece of artwork. So that's my list of my favorite ways to display Nintendo Switch games, but there are so many other ways to do it. So you always want to keep your eye out and think outside the box when it comes to display. Maybe that nail polish display rack is going to be great for different types of games, or maybe you're going to be looking at another kind of box and it just happens to work fantastic with Nintendo Switch cartridges. You just have to keep your eyes open. And it doesn't have to be limited to the cartridges and the games themselves. The dock itself has so many different ways that you can display it. There's Starlink displays for those ships. There's amazing displays for the dock itself to really dress that up. There's a lot of different ways that you can make your Nintendo Switch collection your own and really be awesome. So definitely check out those ideas. Thank you so much for having me on the channel today. I had a ton of fun. If anybody needs display ideas for their game collection or really just a bunch of games, feel free to come and check out Discard. And the last thing that I wanted to say is Irene has a fantastic channel where she is reviewing a ton of different games all the time. And a lot of times she'll have a very contrary opinion to other reviewers that are reviewing the same game out there. And a lot of times you'll find that reviewers kind of come up with the same scores on games, and I really trust Irene's review process because they're different. It's just something to keep in mind.
So you can post your pictures of your collection on my Discord server. It is revived now. And check out Disc Cart on YouTube. And he can definitely be the one to help us out with new ideas for how to display our collections. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you later.